Anyhow, welcome to the State of the City for 2021. I want to thank all of you for being here. It just means a lot to us that you're here. And this year's going to be a little different, as we know, and we've heard all about last year, 2020, which in some respects doesn't even exist because the things that went on. And we'll get into that a little bit. But we had to push this back so late in the year because we wanted to do a face-to-face State of the City. We didn't want to do it on Zoom. I don't know about you, but I like the give and take and the food. And mentioning food, let's thank Service for a great job here. That would be good. Awesome. And I want to thank our rec director, Aaron Todd, for hosting the event today and showing off our new building, new paint jobs, and all that. Which the place really looks nice. And Aaron, along with his team, Mike Callahan, his assistant, and Sarah Gennady, program director, and I don't know if they can hear us back there, but Rick Holland and Dan Kramer, with their talents, keep this building running. You guys do a great job down here, and we appreciate it. And, it turns out to be a really nice venue to have this. And I want to give a shout out to some of our guests today, right off the bat, because we have a good friend of ours, our state representative, Juanita Brent. She's doing a great job down in Columbus. She's a good friend of the city and a good friend, and she's doing a good job for us and for your whole district. So we appreciate all you're doing down there. And a couple of my colleagues from our neighboring cities, Mayor Annette Blackwell from Maple Heights, doing a terrific job over there, and Mayor Matt Burke from Garfield Heights. See, I don't have the fancy slides to keep me on track. But, you know, and thanks to the two mayors for being here, because I really appreciate that. And we work together really well, along with Mike and our Managers and Mayors Association, because together we're a lot stronger when our cities work together. And just lost about that. But anyhow, when our neighbors do good, we all do good. So it's great that they're here. And we have our clerk of courts, Tom Day. He's representing our two judges, Brian Milling and Michelle Paris. Give them our best, and they're doing a great job, not only for us, but for 13, 14 other communities. That's a lot of work. And from our school board, we have Superintendent Andrea Selico, Business Manager Jerry Zagrebic, James Meyer, and Monique Wilson. You're here from UH, Bedford Medical Center, which we still call Bedford Hospital. Been here a long time. But Cindy Bender and 88. Did I say that right? And Art DeVille, there he is, from Data Basics. So, you know, he's in the building that used to be the old post office. Did a fabulous job of rehabbing that place. And they kept the old mural on the wall. And any of you old timers remember going in and, to the post office and seeing that mural at the end. They restored it. Saved it, so that's excellent. Thank you. And then right across the street from Data Basics is Mike Barrett with insurance. It's, oh, there you go. He moved into the old Mr. G's, and wow, what a transformation he made there. We're so happy you're in town. If I could tell a little secret, that he moved from Beechwood to come here. Not the other way around, because we like Bedford better, and we appreciate it. And sneaking in the door, which I'm going to get him, is another friend of ours, Mayor Fletcher Berger from Bedford Heights. We only have mayors with Heights in their name here. I don't know if that means anything or not, but welcome, Mayor. And as I said earlier, we all work together well, and it's all for the greater good. Try to make sure I don't leave anybody out. I probably could just go from table to table and introduce everybody. And from Tracy, Delise Mohal. Tracy. I could probably just go around the tables and introduce everybody. Every one of you that are here, whether it's a business owner or a resident, are all so important to us and what we do. And you're the reason we do what we do. We work together, and it's for the greater good of the city, not for the individuals. Thank you for being here. And I want to introduce our city council. We did have a change earlier in the year when Councilwoman Heather Rhodes had to step down for personal reasons. And after a search in the ward, we opened it up to the whole board. Council unanimously selected Jeff Asbury for replacement. And he's done a great job, just hopping right in there with both feet. Thanks. We have from Ward 1, Sadie Speaks. Ward 2, Walter Janutis. Ward 3, and our Vice Mayor, Vic Fluharty. Ward 4, Paula Mizek. Ward 5, as I said, Jeff Asbury. Oh, you can clap. And Ward 6, Don Saunders. You know, we have a great team here on council. And I've said this many times before, that we don't always agree, which I think would be a terrible thing if everybody agreed all the time. But we get along. What I mean by that is we discuss the issues, not the personalities when we're talking and stuff. And in our hearts, it's always what's best for the city. That is the bottom line, and that's our priority one, is what's best for the city. And one other comment about council. I've been asked, what's the difference between mayor and council at large? Nothing. They're one and the same. It just means the mayor is elected at large or by the whole city, and council is elected by their particular wards. That's the only difference with council at large. So I had a number of questions about that, so I figured others might have that question on their mind too. But I don't have to tell you about 2020. Certainly a challenging year, and it bled also into 2021. Dealing with the pandemic was nothing anyone had foreseen. Each and every one of us had to deal with it in one way or another, and deal we did. I want to commend Mike Malice for his leadership, guiding us through this awful year. It was thoughtful, thorough, and carried out in a professional and caring manner. And to give thanks to his administration, along with all our employees, for how they handled the situation. Having to have so many employees work from home and figuring out how to keep everyone safe and still keep up city services was just a no small task. And working with the Northeast Mayors and Managers Association, ideas and procedures were carefully worked out. We need to give Mike and his administration a great big thanks. And then there's nothing that better enhances a city's appearance and feeling of welcoming than beautiful, meaningful murals on our buildings, such as these. Thanks to Matt Stewart at Spirit Apothecary, who sponsored the Underground Railroad painting that's right across from our post office. So if you haven't been down Willow Street, go by the post office and you'll see this awesome painting that these young people did. And this other one's on the back side of the bike shop, Broadway Cyclery. The best way to see it, go by the library, come down Tarville, and it's just spectacular. My wife and I stopped by there the first day. The young girl was just drawing a couple of lines, and to come back and see this, that's amazing. There's a lot of other blank walls in town that I would like to see this kind of thing done. We have the talent around, the artists are here. We may need a couple benefactors to step up and help us through that, but I want to see a lot more of this in town. It's just terrific work. And Matt and Laura, Mike and Laura at the bike shop sponsored this one. It's just so nice. And with that, I want to just get into the presentation. And Mike, if you would introduce your administration.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quickly, I know Mayor mentioned it once already, but I want to personally touch on each of our department heads. Chief Nagy wasn't able to be here today. Our Assistant Chief Dan Dotzloff at the Fire Department is joining us. Chief Marty Stemple from the Police Department. Aaron Fatch from our Recreation Department. Kelvin Beverly from our Building Department. Cliff Beller from the Service Department. And Jennifer Kuzma in Economic Development. I would like all of you to stand up real quickly. And in addition to those individuals, all right, we still have Frank Gambosi from our Finance Department. But I also want to acknowledge all the assistants as well. As Mayor mentioned, our administration is vital. Everything that we're going to talk about today, all of the projects that we've completed, all of the things that we are going to complete, it's because of the individuals in the room. We talk about the pandemic. For the most part, we were really following Governor DeWine's directives and his leadership from the state level. But it was something that he mentioned in the fall. He urged each community to put together their own task force, put together your own team, and start making decisions. Well, we're fortunate enough, I'm fortunate enough, we had a team of about 12 to 15 people that team was put in place at the end of February. We knew what we were going to be facing. You know, that team met 3 times a week. You know, there were conference calls, there were some very tough decisions. But at the very beginning of that, we identified 3 primary goals. We knew there was going to be a huge financial impact. It wasn't going to be last year, but it was going to be in the future. And we needed to figure out a way to limit that impact. We started making some tough decisions. You know, trimming back a road program, not bringing on seasonal staff, things of that nature. You know, our second priority was the workforce. In no way, shape, or form were we going to reduce our workforce. Now, that was a priority that the 12 of us talked about, because we know specifically the minute you reduce the workforce, you reduce city services. And it was going to be our residents that are going to look to us on what to do. And that we were able to accomplish. And lastly, you got to help people. I mean, that's what we're here. And you know, the way our staff stepped up, the way the business community stepped up. I want to mention, it's hard to see, but there's a photo here at the gym, what it used to look like, lined with boxes of food. You know, I'm going to talk about on a number of occasions this afternoon the auto mile. But not only the auto mile, we had a couple of other businesses step up, and they provided about $25,000 cash donations for us to help the public. And on a bi-weekly basis, we were giving out, you know, hundreds of boxes of food, all made possible by those donations and grant dollars that our staff went out and obtained. You know, they developed a website, or on our website, they developed an actual hub of information. We had where you could specifically sign up for, you know, can you please call my mom every other day to make sure she's okay? We were calling the staff here. I know Ani Zagravic is here and Brittany's here. They were part of those wellness checks. If a senior needed household items, shampoo, we had volunteers that would get it and take it to their home. So when we talk about the quality of staff, and I know it's common to hear amongst cities, but there's none like ours. And I couldn't be more proud to work with not only that team of 12 to 14 people, but every single staff member, every single department, our safety forces never stopped when they went out. And they are the ones that really deserve a round of applause. And I thank them. Touching on our safety forces, you know, both police and fire, they've had a challenging job, to say the least, anytime. But the last 18 months has been very, very difficult. You know, our fire department, along with our PD, you know, constantly never stopped responding. They knew the threat that was out there, and they did what they obviously are trained to do. You know, we talk about our calls. You know, these numbers, you know, you see where they're at, 2,000 advanced life support rescues. But I think the one thing that I wanted to mention, you see this photo, and unfortunately our staff are in this position at least once a year, sometimes more than once a year. That's actually down in Viaduct on a rescue. And when individuals go in that water, they don't realize the danger. You know, our guys are so well trained. We have a team to respond to this. They know what to do. And, you know, they're there, and I don't see a better group that would have to be put in this situation. They risk their own lives, and they do what's needed. And our residents and the neighboring communities are very lucky to have our fire and EMS staff. And I thank them for all of your guys' work. I know we have some members here this evening, or this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for, you know, yearly, annually, but most importantly, the last 18 months. We talked about some of the things that we accomplished, and I want to thank City Council. A couple years ago, we put in front of them a plan to make some substantial purchases and upgrade our fleet. Last year, we put in service a brand new rescue squad, and then in May, we put in service a brand new engine, totaling just under $1 million. They need that. They need that equipment. They need that. The squad, it's vital, and I'm glad that we were able to get that done, and thank you to Council for approving that. There's a lot of information that you'll see on here, a ton of things that we're doing from department by department. I won't touch on every single bullet. This will be online, it'll be on our website, and we will also have it live streamed on YouTube. You see some of the things that we're focusing on this year, our CPR awareness, delivering that to the business community, and obviously maintaining our operational efficiency. We spoke about earlier this morning, and as much as I'd like to convince a number of leaders that we have through many different departments to stay for a number of different years, we know that, listen, their time's going to be coming. And they have plans, and we're just starting to discuss what those transitions are going to look like. So in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we need to make sure that we plan accordingly to make that smooth transition. Moving over to our police department, as I mentioned with the fire, our staffing levels, 34 officers. You see all of the other ancillary employees that we have. Chief Stemple and Deputy Chief Rick Sutz do an outstanding job, just like the fire department. I think we all know that law enforcement across the country has experienced some extreme challenges over the last few years. They're all business. They respond no matter what the circumstance is. They conduct themselves in the most professional manner. It's an honor to work with them, and I thank all of our guys and ladies that are responding. There's a couple items here that I wanted to mention. We did have an opportunity during the pandemic to really focus on our community engagement. We were involved in going out to, drive-by birthday parties or engaging the youth that are out in town. Those things are very, very important. We want to make sure we have that good relationship with the community. We talk about our training. Officers in every department, it's very important to have your defensive tactics training, in which we do, and we expand it. But the one thing that is just as important, and Chief Stemple is focused on this, is also de-escalation training, communication training. And our officers are going through that, and it is another vital training piece for the department. We talk about, in the second time I mentioned it, the Bedford Auto Mile. And through their donations, we've been able to bring on a second canine unit. A few years back, it's been a while actually, since 15. We didn't have a canine unit. It was something that was important. And that group stepped up, they wrote a check to the city, and we were able to get our canine unit back on. Through continuous support from them and other grants, we were able to bring on a second unit. So we have 2 canines, Nero and Luca. They play a vital part to our department, but more importantly to the entire community. So we have a gentleman here from the Auto Mile Association, Mr. Mark Jacobson. I want to thank you for those donations. One of the other things, and we'll talk about it some more, but we had a pilot program a couple years ago, and the Auto Mile fully funded the installation of cameras throughout the district, Broadway, on the Auto Mile, Rockside. And those cameras are fed right into the police department. They're vital for, obviously, our responses. They're vital for investigation. They're also, obviously, a deterrent. And we were able to do that, and that pilot program is going to be expanding, but it just goes to show that partnership. Our goals, real quickly, I'm going to mention just a couple here. We're 8 months through the year, so we've already checked some of these boxes. Our department and Chief Stemple and his staff worked very hard. It's a very cumbersome process, but we are now fully certified with the Ohio Collaborative Police Advisory Board. For those that are familiar with it, we are fully certified, so it's a good thing. Chief Stemple worked on that. But the other item that we completed this year, and again, thanking City Council, all of our officers are now outfitted with body cameras. All of our cruisers are outfitted with dash cams. And that is, that was something very, very important. I think it's important not only from our standpoint, but also for the community standpoint. And City Council supported that purchase, which was significant. And I believe that all went in up and running about June. So we're about 2 months into utilizing those. So that's one of our goals checked off the box. Just want to touch on our Public Works Department. I mentioned our director, Clint Beller. I also want to mention his assistant, Sean Francis, here as well. Both of these gentlemen lead a extremely talented group of guys who work very, very hard. I'm not going to go through the list. You can see all the things that we do from our water department, our wastewater, sewers, holiday lightings, all of the road repairs. Very, very extensive. You can see some of the things. We did a road program. We did cut this back. For those that recall last year when we did the State of the City, we were increasing it up to about $600,000 to $650,000. We did scale that back to $400,000 last year due to our planning of the pandemic and that financial hit. But we were able to accomplish a number of other items. One thing I want to thank Council for the last few years. We started implementing, working with Cuyahoga County, a sewer cleaning televising program. And county has approved a $10,000 line item every year. And we're now looking at areas with the aging lines, and we're partnering with Cuyahoga County, and they're coming in and providing the necessary cleanup. But you can see our GIS, our grant dollars, all of that, and we'll get to that at the next slide. But one stat, if you've seen at the bottom of that I want to mention, and it's specific to Clint and Sean and our water department. Anybody that knows Frank loves spreadsheets. Loves spreadsheets. You know, he'll kill you with spreadsheets. And for decades, he's been putting together detailed information on our water. We have our own water department. We purchase water as a master meter community from the city of Cleveland, and then it goes back out and it bills. Well, you can determine through calculations what your water loss is. How many breaks do we have? You're going to have some loss, especially in an aging community like ours. One of my mentors years ago, I remember him always telling me you need to be somewhere around 75%. For an old city, that's good. 75% is good. You start dropping, you got these. We are at over a 25-year high as far as our collection numbers. Our percentage as of last year was roughly 94%. That's unheard of. We haven't seen that number since 1986, I think. That is a sign that Clint, Sean, and that department is doing what needs to get done. We sound our system, we identify leaks, we repair those leaks, we work hand in hand with these our firemen when they're flushing, when there's issues at those hydrants. They notify that department and they're switched over as quickly as possible. We're now seeing the results of that work. And Clint and Sean, that's great. That's great. Some grant awards. You can see the significant dollars that are coming in the projects. Egbert Road, we had a 50% grant. We split with the county on that project. As Vice Mayor Vic Fluharty, when I announced to him that the barrels were going up on Union, he actually grabbed his chest and thought it was the big one. He thought he was having the big one. But that's getting done. And Cuyahoga County is starting Union Street. But on top of that, we identified some necessary sewer work that needed to get done. About $350,000 in sewer repairs. We did the water line a couple years ago, and we were able to secure funding to do those sewer repairs while they're doing the road. So that is underway now. Construction should be completed sometime in the spring, which is definitely long overdue. You see, the second one I want to touch on is Broadway. Getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, you can see our plan for infrastructure improvements that we've been talking about, and we're following that plan in place. About 4 years ago, Mayor and myself and Clint met with ODOT, and they were identifying that they were going to plan to do Broadway in 2027. Obviously, it was something that we were not satisfied with. You know, it needed to get done sooner. We were doing some traffic counts, knowing that traffic increased during the 271 project. And when we went back to them, actually, I just glanced over and I apologize for not mentioning him. But our city engineer, Joe Chewing, is here. Joe is just as vital when we're talking about these infrastructure projects. So I apologize. You know, our team, we looked at it, we went back to ODOT with the data, and said this needs to get moved up. And they committed to moving it up to fiscal year 23, which means, and we received official notification that Broadway resurfacing from Corp Limit to Corp Limit will start as early as next summer. So that is a huge win for the city. The roadway needs to get redone, but proper planning, you know, there's things that we need to address first. Joe has brought that to our attention, specifically in the historic district. There's water line improvements that need to get done, curb work needs to get done, and some possible electrical upgrades. What we did is we applied for funding through the state. We were successful in getting about $300,000. Mr. Chuney's office is finalizing plans for that, and our intent is to go out to bid this fall. We want to start on that project through the historic district now, so we're completed before ODOT comes in next summer to resurface Broadway. We understand it's going to be a challenge. Construction always is a challenge, but it's a necessary challenge. And proper planning, we are going to get all of that done. You can see we're touching on walks. You know, we're going through EPA studies and conducting an NFA study actually for our wastewater treatment plant. All of that taking place right now. I want to move over, I know the mayor mentioned Aaron and his staff, and I believe we're on four years, I think Aaron's been with us. And really it's just, you know, really changing things small item by small item by small item and changing them for the better. A lot of hard work. There's been a lot of things that needed to get updated, a lot of things that needed to get really looking at what we're offering. How can we change services, programs? Obviously the pandemic was extremely challenging, but thinking outside the box, we looked at it as this is a perfect time to renovate this room, to renovate our room next door. They just completed the other entranceway. Necessary things that clearly had to take place. But you know, with the pandemic and thinking outside the box, I talked about the distribution of meals and everything that his staff did to the seniors, but also to any of the other public that needed help. They were right there. They were the ones monitoring that website. They were the ones updating that COVID hub, contacting the seniors. But you think about, you know, the outside the box thinking, their social distancing programs, you know, art in the park, the things that they were able to accomplish and provide to a community that was, you know, they didn't want to be pulled up in their home. They didn't want to be stuck doing nothing. Aaron and his staff really got creative, and it really worked out for the benefit. And actually, some of those programs were going to continue anyways because they were so successful. But as that last line says, you know, little projects, progress, each day adds up to big results. And we're starting to see some of those things. So, Aaron, thank you and your staff for everything you do. You know, our building department, Calvin, I actually thought about this last night when I was just glancing over this. And I'm not a big speech writer. I kind of get up and just talk. I say if I don't know it, I probably shouldn't be standing up here anyways talking about it. But it hit me last night that the building department actually is our smallest department that we have. There's 4 individuals, 2 clerks and 2 inspectors. And you can just see by the numbers. I mean, there's not, I don't want to talk too much, but you can see the numbers of construction value for residential, construction value for commercial, and 3,300 inspections that 2 guys did last year. So we try to get there as quickly as possible. We know some of those items are quality of life items, but they are hustling, they're working, and we're all grateful for that. One of the things that Calvin and his staff, you know, that we focused on is maintaining the neighborhoods. We saw a few years ago in 19, we were able to get some grant dollars for demolitions. We don't have a lot of areas of town where we got to take down a ton of homes. We don't have that. But the one-offs, we're going to act on, and we'll use grant dollars to remove those blighted properties. There was one thing that I wanted to touch on. You see the second bullet here. We would monitor regularly vacant, abandoned, or bank-owned homes. You know, in 2011, we were at about our highest, 11, 12, during the housing crisis. You know, we were about anywhere from 300 to 380, based on what we could track. And the information that we're showing at the end of last year is we're down to 150. So we're progressing, which is a good thing. And I think, you know, there's good properties here, and hopefully that is reflected when the county does their reevaluations as well. I didn't forget about him. Don't worry, Frank. Frank is, I can't say enough about Frank. You know, everything and all of our successes that we've had, he's been at the forefront of. You can't mimic or copy or hope for more of a dedicated person than Frank. And I'm saying that just for me. I've learned more from Frank over the last 8 years than I learned from, you know, the 2 city managers before. I think we're all grateful for your work, Frank. And you can see that stat there. As much as sometimes we go back and forth, I want to do this, well, we don't have the money to do that, or this department wants it, but we can't do that. You know what? You don't get a comprehensive annual financial reporting award 30 plus years in a row by accident. That doesn't. He's just done an outstanding job. I mean, it's he's always got the best interest of the city. You can see some of the numbers here. We concluded last year with $1.3 million in our general fund cash balance. We are maintaining our reserve that was put in place some time ago at 5.4. Looking at our operations in CARES funding, just real quick to touch on that. We are, you know, we did get some funding from a number of different areas. One thing that was originally set to come to the city was going to be about and I'm going to round up, about $2.4 million. We're not an entitlement community. You know, we see entitlement communities, substantial dollars, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars that they're getting. Unfortunately, our number that we were anticipating was cut in half. So we're now expecting about $1.2 million to come in. Frank has been very involved in the seminars and the restrictions of how that can be used. You know, obviously we used it, some of it for the food distribution and grants, obviously funding for our first responders and how we move those funds around, our disinfecting, all of those things, and how our I don't want to say task force, but how our team identified early on. You know, one of the things that we did, pandemic, we put out right at the get-go. You know, we were at a company that would come in and sanitize vehicles, sanitize buildings, sanitize police, fire, service regularly. Did we have some instances of individuals get ill? Yes, but we didn't experience what a lot of other communities that I've heard of went through. And I think it was a combination of all of those things that we did. I know the fire department, you know, they go on a run that was a positive COVID run, and you come back and that whole squad would have to be broken down and cleaned, and it's very cumbersome. But, you know, as far as the steps taken, I think it really reduced kind of a huge spread throughout all of our departments. I talk about this because of COVID, and we knew last February, and Frank was saying it, we're like, well, hold on, we don't know yet, but he was telling us, we're not going to get impacted this year. We're getting impacted in the future. You can't collect on unemployment, those that are on unemployment. You can't do those things. That's when we're going to get hit. And we were able to build up that, you know, our general fund cash balance, you know, when we built it up to 1.3, you know, we're anticipating a 1.2, 1.25 hit this year on some of those items that you can see. If it's the negative effects of our income tax, net profits, Some of those losses are starting to come, but I believe that we're fully prepared to absorb those. We wanted to make sure that when we started 2020 at, that's where we did not go below. And I think we are on pace. We will not go backwards. And that was one of our primary goals, as I mentioned in that second slide. And a lot of that's kudos to Frank and his staff. You can see all the other things they do as far as income tax, our bond ratings, all of this information is online. What we've saved as far as private collections through our tax department, as well as partnering with an outside collection agency, has really worked out to bring some of those collections in. Moving on to development, I've said this over and over every year. I call it kind of a coup that we were able to convince Jennifer Kuzma to come to Bedford. She has really done an outstanding job. Obviously a huge help to myself, but also to each of our departments. She works hand in hand if it's with the police department, going after radio grants, or if it's grants that, if it's a demo grant or grants with the service department, she is right there. And she also serves as executive director of First Suburbs, so she wears two hats. And I often feel bad. I'm like, man, I'm throwing too much at you. I know you got this other hat to wear, but she is extremely dedicated, and we're very, very happy to have her here. Do you want me to? Okay. I want to mention, I want to identify all of the officials and representatives that we have from Zelia Pharmaceuticals up on Northfield Road. Appreciate you being here. But I think what's most exciting is anyone that has followed us on social media or seen our website or their website and information. They had a little press release last week, and that press release basically said, this is just a snippet of it, they are now fully manufacturing pharmaceuticals at that site again. And that is extremely, extremely exciting. It's huge. Only huge for Bedford, but it is important for all of Northeast Ohio. And there was a lot of work that went into that. Mayor and I walked through there. I think our first week when we started, there was 30 to 50 employees left there. It was empty, and it was a depressing image. But to see that, we know the hard work that goes into that, and thank you. We appreciate it. And congratulations. I know the mayor wanted to touch on that quickly.
Yeah, it's dear to my heart that you guys are getting going and you're doing the projects that you wanted to do, getting out those trucks that are so needed by people. And the day I took office 8 years ago was the day that other company shut their doors. I don't mention their name anymore. Made it a vow not to talk about them. Shut their doors. We lost 1,300 employees in the city, not to mention just the families themselves that were devastated by all the layoffs. We lost 20% of our operating budget when they left. And also had to deal with a city manager that was retiring, and we had to find somebody who could replace him, that would step into the program with all that was happening with that company, and got Mike to come on board. And from there, with all the losses and the $1 million worth of water that we didn't get from them, we never laid anybody off, never cut services. And we said when we started this, hey, we're going to survive no matter what. And thank God we did. And again, it just pleases me so much to see the success you guys are having, and such a top-notch organization you have up there. Please pass along our thanks to everybody up there at Bedford. It's just awesome. See, I had it in my head not to say it. That's right. so much.
Share it real quickly and let that speak for itself. Congratulations. I think that speaks for itself. Taking off the city manager hat for a quick second. And I remember talking to someone in I think it was 2014, and they didn't have a whole lot of when the site was actually empty. They were real negative, and I sure wish I knew how to contact that person now and say, how do you like that? So congratulations, thank you. Moving on as far as development, we've had a number of items. I know we completed, Mr. Klanaris, Bill Klanaris and his staff completed the new dealership at Broadway and Rockside. We've seen a number of small businesses move in there from the Ohio B&B, Title Bureau, Boiler 65 Restaurant, and we're actively talking to some other companies. One thing that we did have, we had a company that was consolidating and moving into the former Walmart. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit them. They actually lost 9 out of their 11 contracts across the country, and we're not in a position to make that move. So we are engaged. We're having some conversations with interested businesses, and I think we'll get that filled soon. New construction, I know Mr. Barrett, the mayor mentioned, and his commitment to Bedford and that site, Mr. G's. If you would see it now, and those pictures really don't do it justice. The investment that he's made there, it's outstanding. I'm thrilled that you're moving and bringing your team here. I do know we have an eyesore next door, and I'm happy to say that we're inching very, very close to demolishing that property with the help of Cuyahoga County. So we're continuing to clean up some of those. I want to talk about, I mentioned the auto mile a handful of times, but they are beyond that first bullet point. Collectively you see, all the improvements that they've made to their dealerships, the value that they've invested. Collectively, they're our largest employer. But that group, they're beyond that first bullet, okay? They mean more to Bedford, and their commitment to this city is way beyond that first bullet point. I'm going to kind of put them on the spot here. I'm going to ask a number of individuals to come up. One, Mr. Jacobson from J. Buick and Honda Mark, if you mind coming up. I'm going to ask Andrea or Dr. Selico if you can come up from the schools, and Vice Mayor Fluharty actually is part of The Bedford Schools Foundation, if you'd like to come up here real quick. Do you want me to speak?
Well, I might have a loud enough voice, I don't even need that. But it's really my supreme honor and privilege to speak on behalf of all of the new car dealers in Bedford. The city has been wonderful to us. It definitely is a two-way relationship. And all the dealers recognize the importance of not only investing in a city that's been so good to us, but also in the future of our city. And it's really my honor as a member of the Auto Mile to present the Bedford Schools Foundation a check for $20,000, which you can put towards scholarships and all the good work that you do as part of that organization.
I'd like to, there's more.
Yeah, there's more.
And there's more. I'd like, Frank, do you want to come up? Frank sits with Mr. St. John as a member of we created years ago the Bedford Community Development Corporation. And it allows donations to come in that can be utilized for city needs, city projects. Mark contacted me a couple months ago actually, and he had asked, what projects, any need, what things that you're working on. Wasn't thinking. Sent out an email, gave him some bullet points, some things that we're looking at. One of them, first and foremost, I talked about that pilot program on the Auto Mile with the cameras. We want to look at doing something similar through our historic district, right on the Bedford Commons. Have cameras there for safety, security, important for the small businesses. We talk about our canine units. They're vital to make sure that continues in the future. I think Luca is now 4. They are typically in service 7 years. Time flies, right? What are we going to do? So these were some ideas that I was throwing out to Mark, things that we have on our radar, and then I'll turn it over to you.
So when I contacted, that's a real check. When I contacted Mike and asked what the Auto Mile dealers would do, and I know last year we donated, I think it was $10,000 to wanted to help whatever
With the food, yep.
Food in the community. So the dealers once again put our heads together, and we really wanted to make an impact this year. So collectively as a group, we have a check for $50,000 that we're going to give to the Bedford Community Development Corporation. Mike gave us a whole list, a litany of items that's on the wish list, and I hope that this will help get at least some of them done. So I'm glad we can help.
Thank you. I can't say enough about that partnership. It's one of the things that I talked about 8 years ago was partnerships are vital. You can't do it all by yourself, and we can't get a better partner than the Auto Mile. Just wrapping up some things, you see 2021 and beyond, some important items. As much as I want to make an announcement tonight, or today, I'm not going to, but I can tell you, John Montello, our law director, is here. He has not been recognized yet, but John and Frank and Jen have put in years of work. I'm not exaggerating, years, when we talk about Tinker's Creek Commerce Park. I won't get into the litany of challenges, but we are rounding third. And the City Council has already passed some legislation. There'll be more to pass in the coming months. But please pay attention. There's going to be some major announcements regarding some development for that park, which is long overdue. You know, APEC Engineering is an engineering company that purchased the old YMCA that is making substantial investment. They're moving in, hopefully when that's completed. NOACA, I'm going to skip that real quick. I'm going to go to CDSG. Jennifer was able to get grants. So on top of obviously the safety things that we're looking at throughout the historic district, you know, we're going to be offering public Wi-Fi downtown. We're going to be bringing in additional benches, charging stations for electric vehicles. There'll be charging stations for electric vehicles in the municipal City Hall parking lot as well, through another grant Jen was able to secure. And other things that are vital. Obviously, we want to partner with the schools. The schools has a huge piece of property across the street that they'll be looking to for best uses, and we're here to partner with them as they go down that path. And we also know internally we got some things that we need to look at. You know, our municipal pool facility. Not really the pool. I just want to mention quickly that when we built that pool, all the original pool house, the original boiler, all of that, was built in 1964. I think we got the life out of it, and we need to start figuring out a way to make those improvements. And those are conversations that are taking place. But the NOACA award, real quickly, we've talked about this over the last few years, 4 or 5 years actually. We were finally able to, and Jen was vital in this grant, and Joe as well. Everyone knows we want to connect our downtown to the Bedford Reservation, and it needs to go down Willis. It needs to cross over Viaduct Park. We were actually able to secure a grant through NOACA for the planning of that. Listen, that is the first step. You cannot secure construction dollars unless NOACA supports a planning grant. We've applied before, and we weren't able to get the grant. We tweaked it, we made some changes, to the plan. Jen submitted it, and we were notified a couple months ago that we were successful. So that planning is taking place now, the specifics of it. What that allows us to do is it lays the groundwork for us to go after construction dollars. So although it's not happening this year, we are a step closer, and a huge step. So we will see that obviously happen. And while we're going down that road of securing the funding for that, you know, these are some slides that we talked about last year, just to wrap up. What can we do let's think outside the box, right? Our goal last year was looking at one of our assets is our downtown. One of the assets that we have is the park. But our commons, we know what happens downtown, the events and the draw. How can we make that a 12-month-a-year draw? How can we, you know, listen, let's plan it, let's look at it, how can we improve it, let's put our imagination together. And we really came up with a great concept here. Our goal last year, we actually spoke about this first week of February at the State of the City, with the idea of we're going to now engage the public. We're going to have board meetings, speak to the citizens, and let's really talk this through. And then we know what happened last year, so that was kind of put on hold. But we're here and we're continuing these discussions. We're looking at obviously expanding the commons, you know, obviously having more green space, water feature. We want to be able to bring in, you know, skating in the wintertime. Clinton Shawn and his staff do an outstanding job during the holiday season. How can we get people downtown? The more people that are down there will help our small businesses. And this is something that we're going to continue to imagine, we're going to continue to talk about and look for funding sources. And our goal is to make that happen. It might not happen this year, but we're going to continue to push closer to making that happen. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we've talked about. I know I skipped over some things, and I apologize if I didn't acknowledge anybody. The last 18 months has been challenging, but like I said, to go over what we accomplished during what we went through, I think is a testament to the staff that we have here, to City Council, to our businesses, and each and every one of you. So I just want to leave it as thank you for being cooperative. Thank you for being flexible. We're continuing to do your work, and we're going to continue to make good things happen. So thank you.
I neglected to council clerk, Tracy Simons. She's the one that keeps us all in line and takes all the notes and typing and all that good stuff. And then I also want to talk mention my biggest supporter, the love of my life, my wife Marilyn. She keeps me going and gives me that kick down then, and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't get out there. So I appreciate it, and after 52 years of marriage, I'm kind of used to her.
The other thing before we wrap up, and we'll be around for questions, and like I said, we're going to have this online. But all of this, when I talk about flexibility, all of the organizing this event is just a small piece. That's someone that obviously is vital to, very important to myself, but also the city, is Michelle Howard. Okay, I wanted to save her for last. She keeps us organized, keeps me in line, does all the work behind the scenes. She does. From someone, an administrative assistant, I couldn't ask for anyone better. Michelle, what you do day in and day out, I appreciate it. I know city council does. We will stick around if anyone has any other questions, and other than that, I appreciate you. Well, she doesn't like to get introduced, but I really, my wife Kelly is here as well. Thank you for coming. My boys are here somewhere too, and I'm not sure where they ran off to, so thank you. Appreciate everyone's time.